Souls. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are here, this is where we talk about the real truths of the twin flame journey. So, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, this is where we talk about the real truths of the twin flame journey. Not the fantasy, not the sugar coated soulmate version, but the raw intentions, the collapse, the purge, and the sacred union. And tonight, it's 12:22 a.m. here in Singapore. We are diving into something every one of us, divine feminine, on this path, we have struggled with. How do we manage the push and pull between the 5D connection and the 3D reality? Because here's the truth. If you don't understand how to reset your boundaries across dimensions, you will find yourself drained, disoriented, and trapped in limbo, while your divine masculine hides in comfort. So that's why, tonight, I want to take you into one of the most important teachings I've ever shared with my clients and with this community. How to reset boundaries between the 5D and the 3D. Because if you don't understand this, you will burn out in the field. You will feel your divine masculine in your dreams. You will feel him in your body. You will feel him in the ether. But you will still be staring at silence in your phone. So tonight's transmission, discourse, is about why boundaries in both dimensions are the only way to bring him back into reality. So the reason why I've been really inspired to do this discourse is that lately I've been talking to my clients about this, and we're discussing this and thinking about my own journey. And there was something that I really wanted to share with you guys, is that often the 5D and when you connect deeper into the third energy field, it's a very comfortable place. And if you notice, our divine masculine, when we are going through a separation, he often tends to be in the 5D space a lot. And what happens is that because we are also missing our divine masculine, yearning for our divine masculine, we often give in, and we often spend a lot of time consciously, subconsciously. Same for divine masculine as well. So when we start consciously drawing boundaries and saying no in the 5D, saying no in the shared energy field, he will start to notice a deep difference. And he will start to notice that something is happening. See, he might not be consciously aware of what he's doing. And because he's so comfortable meeting you in the astral, meeting you in 5D, the need for 3D might not even be as important, right? Because he's so comfortable. And you will also notice timings, his bedtime, when he's waking up in the morning. And every day during these times, you will feel your divine masculine. You would suddenly feel like a hug, or you suddenly might feel like you're sharing intimacy between each other in the astral, or you might just feel like he's talking to you. And when you start saying no, if you're not going to honor me in the 3D, then don't visit me in the 5D. And you will immediately see the energies rescind. And often this is a test for you and for him. So it might be difficult to immediately break this pattern. So one of the techniques that I would recommend is, if he comes to you twice a day, try to cut off one. When he comes, tell him, nope, you're not going to hang out with me here. Unless you honor our connection in the 3D, unless you're making a conscious choice of spending time with me in the 3D, you are not going to hang out with me here. And this is exactly when the the tables turn. Because when he stops receiving your energy in the ether, he will start yearning for you in the 3D more. If not, he's very comfortable in separation, because to him, he doesn't feel separation at all because he's got unlimited access to you, and through the third energy field, it starts to work in a way that you are going to feel him and he's going to feel you. So when you stop it, when you draw boundaries, very healthy boundaries, like, hey, no, you're not going to kiss me in 5D until you start, acknowledging me in 3D, and then the miracles happen. So let's start very clearly, all right? The 5D is the energetic field, the dream space, the etheric intimacy, the part where you wake up and he was just there. The 3D is our incarnation in the physical body, the phone calls, the showing up, the accountability, the uncomfortable conversations, the decisions that cost him something in the physical. Both are real, but here's the trap. Most of us divine feminines fall into this. We allow the 5D to substitute for the 3D. The addiction of the 5D, let's be honest, the 5D feels incredible. And when he comes to you in a dream, when you feel his energies wrapped around you at night, when you making love in the ether so intensely, you wake up trembling and it feels like union. But here's the truth. In the 5D, he's safe. He can take what he wants, your love, your energy, your body, without ever risking accountability. And so if you keep feeding him in the 5D, you're giving him union without him ever having to rise into it. So the reality of the 3D. So now let's flip it. In the third dimension, in the 3D, the third density, everything is exposed. Here he has to face his fear of rejection. Here he has to show vulnerability. Here he has to reconcile his family dynamics, his karmic entanglements, category 1, his survival patterns. So this is where the mission lives, because only in 3D do our choices carry weight. But this is also why he resists it, because in 3D he can lose. In 5D he never can. And why do boundaries matter? So let's cut to the point. Why are the boundaries so critical? Without boundaries, you leak energy in 5D. He drinks from it and you're left empty in 3D. With boundaries, the third energy field recalibrates. He feels the silence, and that silence becomes the magnet that forces him to move. So boundaries are not a punishment. They are the reset button that turns illusion into incarnation. So boundaries in the 5D. So how do you actually set boundaries in the 5D? Like I was mentioning before, and I'll repeat again for the sake of emphasis. Step 1, observe. When he shows up in your dreams or in your field, don't jump in. Don't start pouring love. Don't reciprocate. Just notice. Step 2, respond if needed, but keep it firm and short. Say to him energetically, I love you, but this must anchor in 3D. Until then, I pull my energy back. Step 3, anchor back into your body. Breathe, grounding. This stops you from spinning in the astral, and that's what a boundary looks like in the 5D. So boundaries in the 3D. So now let's talk about 3D boundaries. All right. When he actually does show up, when he texts after months, or when he wants to circle back without clarity, this is when most of us divine feminines collapse. But boundaries here mean, with words, I value this bond too much to keep it halfway. If you are here, it needs to be real. with actions. Don't chase, don't over explain, don't let him breadcrumb again. Your stillness is the standard. Really, guys, your stillness is the standard. With calmness, boundaries are strongest when they are steady, not when they are screamed. So this is how we stop mothering and start mirroring him. So you may ask me, what happens after the reset? So what happens when you hold boundaries in both worlds? He feels the absence in 5D. He feels the standard in 3D. And the polarity returns. Instead of you carrying both ends of the cord, he's forced to carry his half. That is when our divine masculine begins to move, not because you begged, not because you convinced, but because you withdrew and he finally had to feel the gap. And yes, I know many of you are afraid of, if I pull back, won't I lose him? But let me say it very, very clearly. If he can drift away just because you have stopped overgiving, then he was never anchored to begin with. Boundaries don't end the connection, they refine it. They tell him, I know who we are and I refuse to live in half-truths. That's not rejection, that's the deepest form of love. So remember this, the 5D is real, but it's not enough. The 3D is hard, but it's necessary. And the only bridge between the two is our boundaries. So when we pull back in 5D and when we stand strong in 3D, you force the connection to purify. And this is how we bring our divine masculine home. Not by chasing, not by pleading, but by resetting the field so that the only place left for union to exist is here in the flesh. And that is the sacred reset of boundaries. All right. And it's one of the biggest confusions in the twin flame parts. That let's get really real about this. And how to manage the push and pull between the 5D and the 5D connection and the 3D reality. As divine feminines, we were deeply attuned to the 5D. Always, literally. I've talked about this in many of my discourses since the start. 5D is beautiful, and 5D is a very beautiful place to survive the separation. But there will come a point where boundaries in the 5D are also necessary. Let me give you an example. All right, the timings that I was talking about, right? Like every day, you may be in different countries, so your morning may be his night and his night may be your morning. And example, if he's a late sleeper, every day at noon you might be feeling his energies and you are probably like, hey, he's in my thoughts. But the moment you delve deeper and you're like, hey, this is not imagination or wishful thinking, this is actually my DM fantasizing about me, then you can tell him this, hey, I love that you are thinking about me, but no, you don't get to be intimate with me in the 5D without acknowledging me in the 3D. And that is the most beautiful boundary you can set. You will feel his energy pull back. Remember this, guys, if the connection is true, you will feel his energies pull back when you set the boundary. And then he might test it. He might test it again. And it's really up to you. So, like I said, one of the techniques I would recommend is that if you're used to feeling two or three times a day, and it's a pattern, before bed, after waking up, you can close one, so that he too will know this is not imagination, this is real. She's actually pulling back. I have to act in the 3D. If not, I will not have this access. Even though the third energy, we always have access to our divine counterpart, vice versa, the third energy field, but we can still draw boundaries. All right. And it feels real because it's real. But here's the paradox. If you live too much in the 5D, the divine masculine never feels the necessity to show up in the 3D. And this is where boundaries come in, not as punishment, not as rejection, but as a reset of the field, so that union can actually root in the physical. That's why the 5D connection is the third energy field, where our souls merge and communicate beyond space and time. It is where energetic intimacy, astral encounters, it can be very, very addictive because it feels like home, but it's also safe for our divine masculine. I keep repeating this over and over again. He can take what he needs emotionally, spiritually, as word, without risking accountability in 3D, But that's the thing, what the 3D really is, the 3D is not less real. It is the ground of incarnation, as I had mentioned earlier. So it's very, very important to honor that in so many different ways, right? Both matter and they both serve different purposes. And the mistake a lot of us divine feminines make is this: we let the 5D become a substitute for the 3D. No, let me be very, very, very clear here. Substitute for 3D. And that's why the addiction of the 5D amplifies. So let's be very, very honest here. The 5D feels incredible, especially when we are going through separation. It's like it's God's gift to us. When our DM like literally shows up, is brushing against our energy field, makes like making love, and you wake up shaking, and it's like that. But here's the trap: in 5D he's safe, in 3D he's exposed, and so if you keep feeding him in the 5D, he gets what he wants without ever having to face what scares him in the 3D. And the 3D side, why is it so hard for our divine masculines to anchor here? Because 3D requires accountability, facing family dynamics, risking rejection, and showing vulnerability. It's easy for him to hold you in a dream, but it's harder for him to hold you in a conversation with his parents sitting in the next room. And here's the paradox: union cannot exist in 5D alone. I always talk about multidimensional union, right? The mission is not to stay floating in the ethers forever. The mission is to bring it into incarnation. And that's why again and again and again I may repeat this: boundaries. Why do they matter so much? So let's get to the point. Without boundaries, you leak energy into the 5D. He takes it without realizing he's avoiding, and you end up feeling abandoned in 3D while still flooded in 5D. With boundaries, you recalibrate the third energy. He feels the silence of your withdrawal, and that silence becomes the magnetic pull that drives him back into 3D reality. So boundaries in the 5D, like I'd said, observation, energetic response, and anchoring into our body, So that's why, like, when he appears, I will repeat this again for the sake of this discourse. When he appears, just observe. Don't jump in. Don't start pouring love or begging for contact. Energetic response. If you need to respond, keep it short and firm. I love you, but this must anchor in 3D. Until then, I'm holding my energy back. Bring your awareness back to breath, to grounding, to the mission. Don't linger there too long. And in the 3D, is when, as divine feminines, we collapse. Because when he texts after months and suddenly the tendency to be in the old pattern jumps up. So for example, you text him and he replies after 3 years. Instead of just going in the flow, he has opened up like an invitation. You jump on it and you end up trying to meet him. You're like, hey, shall we meet? Or you're like pushing it too fast, or you're like trying to get him to, or you turn up where he frequents, or you try to fake a bumming into situation, or you try to expand it, instead of playing it cool. So it's often a test from the divine masculine. He messages you after months to test how are you acting. So that's why you got to observe. With words you can say, like I mentioned earlier, I value this bond too much to do it halfway. If you're here, it needs to be real. Not accepting his breadcrumbing, or not chasing, or not starting the love bombing again, or not starting to overgive again, but with deep calmness. So, what happens, right? This is when, like I mentioned, the mothering stops and you start mirroring him and you start to become the divine wife. You know, you're not the mother or you're not the girlfriend, you are the divine wife. You're not like being in his field, you know, trying to like control him, mother him. You become his divine counterpart, his sacred counterpart. So, what actually happens when you do this reset properly? He notices the silence in 5D. He feels the strength of your clarity in the 3D, and the polarity snaps back into balance. Instead of you carrying the connection for both of you, he feels the pull to carry his half. And this is alignment. So I know what some of you are thinking, but if I pull back in 5D, won't he just drift away completely? Wouldn't that end? Here's the truth: if he can drift away because he stopped overgiving, then he was never showing up to begin with. And boundaries, like I again and again and again and again, I would say, never destroys a connection, it only purifies it. It reminds him, you know. And that's the reason why the next time you feel him in your dreams or hear him whisper in your heart, remind yourself, I love you, but I deserve to meet you here in the flesh where our mission lives. And that is the sacred reset of boundaries. That is how you turn the illusion into incarnation. And that's tonight's teaching. All right. And I just wanted to say, once you start doing this, you will notice a huge difference. You know, once you start setting healthy boundaries, you will notice a huge difference, because the fear of pulling back, you may feel it's like pushing him away, but in truth, it's the opposite. Boundaries are the highest form of devotion. It tells his soul that you know who you both are to one another and you refuse to settle for less than the truth. And this is exactly what awakens the masculine out of comfort and into accountability. So, guys, tell me in the thoughts in the comments. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you guys want a one-on-one session with me, you can book via my website. And all my sessions are conducted via Zoom live, and you can ask me as many questions as you want during our session. And I've also introduced more healings on my website. Do check them out. And with that, I'll come back again with another discourse. All right, take care and bye bye.